Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you guys can see me.
Google Fi Wireless has flexible phone plans that keep your family safe and connected. There are plans for any budget.
Stupid phone. Alright guys, I will tell you what happened, what's been going on for the past few months. Catitude made it on time. Oh my goodness. Mike would be so proud of you, Catitude. Thank you guys. Yeah, it's been very, very rough the past couple months. As I'm sure you guys remember, Mike had his surgery. God, that light is terrible. Hold on. Yeah, that's not much better. Hold on. 1 second. Yes, Mom? You guys really aren't too bright. Okay. That's better. It's darker, but at least there's not bright lights ahead of me. The past couple months, Mike had his surgery in August. And within 5 weeks of having his surgery, we had been to the emergency room 3 times. Once was because of his medication. The other 2 times he was just having major issues that were out of the ordinary. And they kept doing blood tests and everything else and saying, well, everything looks good. But of course, it's never good because no Carl yet. He said he wanted to come, and I know that he got the notification, but finally his oncologist, I hope you guys can all hear me okay, by the way. But his oncologist moved up his MRI, and he had an MRI in the end of September. And the tumor that he had the laser surgery for was already, thank you, Gizmo, was already back, and it was larger than it had been originally. So at that point, we knew that the chemotherapy that he had did not do anything. The surgery he had did not do anything. And at that point, there was nothing left that we could do. So Mike went on hospice on the 30th of September and was doing okay. He was still able to talk. He was having a lot of problems finding words. He would tell me, when he would mean to say, when's dinner going to be ready? And he would say, when is the car going to be in the garage? It was, I always joked with him that it was just a fun game of trying to figure out what he actually meant. Within the last couple weeks, he became increasingly nonverbal. He could not speak above a whisper. And he would only give one-word answers. And the only person that he would really even talk to, even give one-word answer to, was me. He did not really speak to the nurses or anything. He might smile at them or do something like that, but the only person that he would respond to was me. At the end, he had gone blind in his right eye because of where the tumor was. He was completely blind in his right eye. His left eye was very bad because the tumor, when it came back, had crossed over the lobe of his brain, so it was no longer just in the left side of his brain. It had crossed over to the right as well. He was unable to use his phone. He was unable to watch television. I would put his music on for him so he could listen to his music. He could not. He did love me. He could not feed himself. He could not drink because he could not get his hand to go where he needed it to go, and he could not see well enough to be able, hello, a little bit. He could not see well enough to be able to even feed himself, so I was having to feed him. He was drinking out of a straw. He was wasting away. And oh God. No, that Megadesi's, that song. Whenever I hear that song, I just think about how strong he was throughout this entire battle. Because he was bulletproof. But yeah, it was a very sudden decline. He was fine. And then he had those seizures in April and he went a little bit downhill. But after this, after everything with the tumor, we knew that this was the end. He wanted to do a video before he went, but he just didn't have the strength. And I promised him that I would keep this channel going for him. And I promised him that after he was gone, that I would do a video and let you guys know what was going on. So he kind of plateaued. He was bedbound, as I said, and everything was good. He was still eating, still drinking. He was eating less and less, but that was to be expected. Tuesday night, obviously at this point we had a hospital bed for him, and he was out in the living room. Tuesday night I went to bed. He was asleep. He had taken his medications. Everything was fine. I got up at about 4:30 on Wednesday morning, and he was okay. I let the dogs outside, and he was doing okay. And I went back to bed, and I woke up at about 5:45. And the first thing that I noticed was that Gizmo was with me. And Gizmo, the minute that Mike became bedbound, Gizmo never left him. Gizmo was always with him. Gizmo was on him, next to him. And that's one of the saddest things too, you guys, is that he couldn't see. He didn't even know. He couldn't remember his cat's names. He couldn't remember the dog's names. He didn't know who was with him. So I would always... Of course he is. He couldn't, he didn't, he knew that they were his, but he didn't know who it was. So I would have to tell him, oh, look, there's Buddy. There's Gizmo, and so Gizmo was laying in bed with me, which immediately was strange. And I got up and I walked out into the living room, and he was breathing very hard and very fast. I woke up and I heard, so Angel is fine. She's looking at me. She's right over there. Hi, Ozzy. Klutz. But, so I immediately gave him his morphine, called hospice, because the first thing hospice tells you is any changes in breathing, call us immediately. So I called them at 5:45, and I said, he is breathing very rapidly and shallowly and loudly. They said, all right, we're calling the nurse. She will be out there as soon as possible. She called me and said, I am about an hour away from your house. And I said, okay, fine. She said, I am leaving as soon as I possibly can. I gave him his morphine. His breathing did not slow. I actually gave him half a dose, and then half an hour later, I gave him another half a dose. I was holding onto his hand. His right side was completely just gone. He could not even clench his fist on his right hand, but I was on the left side of his bed, and he was holding my hand. I could not get him to open his eyes. He opened his eyes for a few seconds and looked at me and said, hi, and then closed them again. And so he had 3 doses of morphine total within an hour. And 3 half doses, so every half an hour he had one. And then I came around and I sat down in my chair because the nurse had called me, and I was on the phone with her, and I said, his breathing is actually starting to quiet. And she said, okay, that's good. You know, I'm on my way. I will be there as soon as I can. And I went back to the bed. Hi, Carl. I went back to the bed, and I was holding onto his hand. And his breathing, I noticed, he was probably only taking a breath every 20 to 30 seconds. And it was at that point that I knew what was going to happen. And, sorry, then he took one final breath and let it out. And I stood there holding onto his hand. I told him that I loved him. And I stood there with holding my breath, waiting for him to take another breath. And he just never did. So in the end, just like it always was, it was just him and me here by ourselves. Just him and me here by ourselves, and he was gone. And I still don't think it's all completely sunk in yet that he's gone. I don't know if it'll ever sink in completely that he's gone and that I'm never going to see him again. I was glad that he went quickly and he went peacefully. I'm really glad that when he died, the damn cancer died too. Because the cancer that killed him killed itself in the process. So, cancer. I'm very happy about that. But oh, I hope so. That was what my friend Wendy said. She goes, oh my God, Tracy. She said when he got up there, he was probably just absolutely smothered in a pile of animals. I said, I'm sure he was. I can only hope so. Then the other night, I was watching. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. I I was watching Emergency the other day. I always watch Emergency because that was my favorite show when I was little, and I still watch it today. And it was an episode I'd never seen before. And they went to Seattle, and they were meeting a captain. And when they got off the plane, and he walks up and he shakes their hand and he says, "Hi, I'm Captain Michael Olson." Spelled correctly and everything in the closed caption. And I mean, I rewound it probably 4 times, and I just sat there staring at the TV saying, that's a little too coincidental. You know, it was just like, I'm Captain Michael Olson, and I'm like, okay, what are the odds of this? There's no way. But, yeah, he did. He sure did. And that was the thing, even when he was nonverbal, even when he wouldn't talk. Last weekend, I sat there. I was listing stuff because I was like, "Are you hungry?" And he nodded at me, and I said, "Well," I said, "What would you like?" I said, "You can have chicken nuggets. You can," and I started listing all kinds of things that he could eat. And when it was a no, he wouldn't say the word no. Okay, he would not say the word no. He would say yes. He would say hi. He would say, but he would not. If it was no, he was just silent. Yeah, it does. Thank you. But he would just be silent. So I'm listing all these things, and all I got was silence. I was like, okay, well, maybe he's not hungry. And then I walked back to him, and I looked at him, and I said, hey. And this was sad too because of his eyesight. When I would talk to him, he would lift his head and start looking around until he would focus on my face, and then he would look right at me. But it took him a minute to focus. And I said, would you like me to grill you a hamburger? Eyes wide, and he just looked at me and went. I said, okay, hamburger it is. He had a way to communicate with me. I mean, when he did that, I just started laughing. I was like, I said, really? But yeah, I mean, he was eating and drinking until the night before this all happened. You always hear these things of, oh, well, they stop eating and they stop drinking, and then within days, no. And that's the thing. It's just his only concern in these past few months, the only thing that he was worried about was that I was taken care of. That was his only worry. He wasn't worried about himself. He wasn't worried about anything else. He just wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay after he was gone, and that I was going to be okay. And I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to be okay again. Not as okay as I could be. But, I mean, I literally feel like half of my body has been torn away from me. There's no words that can even explain how I feel. I just feel empty. Well, he didn't really talk to you, Carl. Not like he talked to me. Excuse me for 1 second. I need to grab a tissue. Entertain them. Do something fit. Be entertaining. Oh. Yeah, I did not want to, I I wanted him home. I wanted him with his animals because I think we all knew, like when he was in the hospital with those seizures, that was his only thing, was he wanted to get home to his animals. And he did. And when he went, I let Gizmo say goodbye. Because Gizmo has this thing where he walks up your chest and gets right in your face, and he sniffs your mouth and your nose, and then he'll start licking. And after Mike was gone, I put him on Mike's chest, and he walked up and sniffed Mike's mouth. Oh, I will. And he sniffed Mike's mouth, and his head came back, and then he just turned around and walked and snuggled up next to Mike, and he was there until the funeral home came to take Mike out. And Gizmo knew Daddy's not there anymore. But he laid with him and he stayed with him the whole time. Oh, me too. I couldn't have put him in a hospital. I couldn't. And I've read a lot of things about glioblastoma patients, about, how quickly things can happen. And there are people that say that breathing like that can go on for 48 hours. And that heavy gasping for breath and I said, I thank God it only lasted an hour and a half before he was gone. I mean, it was an hour and a half. It was just after 7:00 in the morning when he died, and I had discovered this at 5:45. So I don't think I could have borne that for 48 hours, to listen to him gasping for breath and knowing that he was going and that he just didn't go. He was just laying there suffering. It was very, very quick. And although we knew from day one that this was going to happen, I was not at all prepared for it to happen like that. And I thought I would get some kind of warning. And even the hospice nurse, she had been there the day before. She was there on Tuesday. And she said she asked one of the other nurses, did I miss something? Did I miss a sign yesterday that this was happening? He didn't. And the other nurse said, no, this is just how glioblastoma is. And glioblastoma, she had never had a glioblastoma patient until Mike. No, I didn't want to believe it either. But glioblastoma, it turns on a dime. It just, fine one day, gone the next. I mean, because you hear a lot of people will say with cancer, oh, they stop eating and then they stop drinking and then it's a matter of days. And no, he ate and drank the day before. The thing was, on Tuesday, I got up and I was just exhausted. I could barely keep my eyes open. And I called my boss and I said, look, I'm not going to be in today. I'm staying home. And I'm very glad that I did. I'm very glad that I stayed home with him that day, his last full day. Something told me to stay home, and I follow my gut on things like that. And my bosses have been absolutely wonderful. My one boss, Adam, stopped by with some groceries for me yesterday. and gave me a big hug and said, you're family to us. And you take, I've been told by both, take as much time as you need. Don't worry about this place. It'll still be here when you come back. I finally took a shower today. It took me 3 hours to get up the gumption to take a shower, but I actually did it. Yeah. They are wonderful. They've been wonderful through this whole thing, through this whole 18-month ordeal. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for better. They instituted a no phones on the floor policy, and then it was like, but you can have your phone. And if anybody says anything about it, you tell them to come talk to me. You are a special case. You can have your phone with you. So, yeah, it was. Oh, and my boss is also coming back next week so that we can go get the propane tanks filled. He's going to take me to go get the propane filled. So, Mike was always worried about the propane and making sure that I was okay. Always making sure that I was warm. But I mean, it's been very hard, especially since I'm so far away from my family. They're 3 hours away. My friends up here, oh yeah, it's cold. Right now it's 48 degrees, but last night I think it got down to like 24, 29, something like that. It was below freezing last night. But yeah, my friends have been calling me. I've spoken to my sister. I spoke to my mom. My brother-in-law. I spoke to my brother-in-law yesterday. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it before, but my sisters are much older than I am. They're 13, 12, and 10 years older than me. And my second oldest sister, Kathy, passed away just a few years ago from Parkinson's disease. So she had a long illness where she was bedbound and where, so my brother-in-law, Don, understands on a level. No, Catitude, they're not. But I do have friends that are coming. But he understands what it's like to take care of somebody who's on hospice and to have them have a long illness and to have them finally pass away. So, he understands. And of course, I've known my brother-in-law. My sister got married in 1978 when I was 8 years old. I was the flower girl in her wedding. I'm 54 now. And so that tells you how long I've known my brother-in-law. That, all of my brothers-in-law, actually. So, he watched as my sister declined, and he understands on a level that he and I are the only two that understand that level of watching somebody that you love just die by inches. I lost a little bit more of Mike every day, and I got mad at him a couple weeks ago because I was like, don't you dare go nonverbal on me. I was like, don't you stop talking to me. And then I came back to his bed a few minutes later. I said, I'm sorry I yelled at you. I said, I just didn't want the last time that you told me you loved me to be the last time that you tell me you love me. And he grabbed my hand and squeezed it as hard as he could. So he told me And just a couple days before he died, I was leaning down talking to him, and he just lifted his hand up and he put it on the side of my face. Yes, I do know Carl. Thank you. Carl's been great. He was obviously, when all this was happening, I called him and told him what was going on, and he was the first person that I called and said, Carl, he's gone. And I called hospice back, and she said, oh, they're on their way. And I said, tell them to slow down. There's no rush now. And I told the woman at hospice, I said, he's gone. So, and when his hospice nurse came in, she just grabbed me in the biggest hug you've ever seen. And she said, I'm so sorry I wasn't here with you. And I said, no, it's okay. I said, it's all right. It was just him and me. It was always him and me against the world. And still is. I wanted to show you guys a couple things. First, he's obvious, he's being cremated. He did not want any kind of services, so he's being cremated. And I got this. This is actually for holding ashes. I got this with his blessing. I showed it to him and he gave me a thumbs up. But as you can see, it's a wrench ring, which I thought was very fitting for him. And this this is what I got for, I'm going to be ordering this. Obviously it's not going to say the name on it that it says, but I hope you guys can see this. Maybe not. Ugh. Okay. All right, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the urn that I'm ordering him, it's personalizable. And it's got Bigfoot on it. And I said, if I could, there couldn't possibly be anything that I could find that could be better. I'm also going to read you guys. This is his obituary. That they wrote for him, and it's beautiful. If I can find it now. Here it is. Okay. So, Michael Olson, age 60, of Barrington, passed away peacefully on Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. Born on March 6, 1964 in Ypsilanti, Michigan, Michael was the son of Harold and Lottie Booth. He worked as a forklift driver until he moved to the family cabin in Barrington, where he found a quiet, peaceful life. He also worked as a mechanic on the side throughout much of his life. Here's where I'm going to lose it, but Michael was blessed to share these years with his devoted life partner, Tracy, who cared for him until the very end. He enjoyed tinkering, exploring the outdoors with his metal detector, and more recently, embarking on his own search for Bigfoot. Known for his deep love of animals, Michael had a heart of gold and was a true friend to any creature in need, always ready to lend a hand to others. He leaves behind his loving partner Tracy, granddaughter Kirsten, and his cherished fur babies. Yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome. Sorry for blowing my nose on camera, but it's better than what you'd get if I didn't. Yeah, because I gave him the information and I really wanted to get the Bigfoot part in there because I'm sorry, it's part of his life. And I don't care if people laugh at it. I really don't care. It's like, come on down, we've got the proof. But yeah, so oh shoot, I have to send him a picture too when I forgot about that when I sent it back. I have to send a picture of him. And guys, honestly, I was going through the YouTube videos and I was just going through watching old videos, old lives and everything else and just what he looked like even a year ago. Thank you, I thought so too. His thighs were this big around. I mean, his shins were this big around. I mean, this cancer took a toll that I can't even describe. And not just physically, but mentally. I mean, it killed him to lay in that bed. You know that he hated every second of it, laying in that bed, not being able to get up, not being able to do anything for himself, not being able to do anything he wanted, just laying there. That was not him. It was never him. And I'm just glad he's not suffering anymore. I really am. That's true. If not for Bigfoot, we wouldn't all be here. But he was the best, and I know you guys agree with that. He just was. Who you saw in those videos, who you heard talking, that was him. There was no pretense. That was him. Foul-mouthed as he may have been. Yeah, that was hard to see. And right before he became bedbound, I mean, he would try to walk through the house, and I had to help him walk from his chair to the bedroom. And that's why we ended up getting the hospital bed, because it got to be too much. He got to the point where he would try to stand up out of bed, and I was telling him, oh, hi, Tony. No, he promised me he wouldn't ruin Halloween, so at least he didn't die on Halloween, because he promised me. No, you don't even understand. He would talk about, because I would say something about the channel, and he's like, oh, I really got to make a video. I got to let everybody know. I can't let him down. I got to let everybody know what's going on. And then he would say something like, I don't know if anybody cares or not. And I was like, honey, they care. They care. I said, look at all these messages. I sat there a couple weeks ago and I was reading him the messages, like from the last post that I had made when he was having his surgery and everything. And I said, look at all these messages that you got, when people are sitting there saying, have you heard anything? Is anything new? Do we know? But I mean, there was no good news to report. I mean, obviously this is not good news either. But, there was nothing to report. He was declining. And I didn't want you guys suffering right along with me, when there was nothing anybody could do. It was hard. It was very, very hard. It was hard to, obviously when he got this disease, I got switched from partner to caregiver like a light switch. But thanks, Lou. Honestly, it my role in this relationship completely changed, and it didn't bother me. I mean, everything I did for him, I did because I loved him. There was never a question that, I would do anything that I could for him. And I wish he would have been around a little bit longer, but at the same time, I'm glad that he's not, because he was suffering. He was to the point where he if I tried to move him in his bed, tried to even roll him over, he was just in massive amounts of pain. And even though he couldn't speak, he sure could let you know he was in pain. And I felt so horrible. I know you guys did. And he just never could fathom that. He never could fathom that, people all over the world, care about some guy in the middle of Michigan that's looking for Bigfoot. He could never. He's like, but why? Why do they? I said, because you're awesome. I mean, why else? Because everyone that ever came in contact with the man loved him, because he was genuine and he was helpful and he was real. And, he was an asshole sometimes. I mean, honestly, in 26 years, I've seen every side of the man that you could possibly see. And, he never put on airs. He never pretended to be something that he wasn't. Not ever. Hi, Willow. He was who he was. Yeah, exactly. He was never a fake person. He was who he was. And you could see that he wasn't, that he was real. You could see that. Anybody that ever met him could see that. Yeah, sometimes catitude, not really. There were That's true. That's true, Foggy Mountain Witch. But that's the thing. That was the other thing, that before this happened, between his surgery and his going downhill, his decline, there were some times that were very concerning. When he was still mobile, when he could still walk, and there were times that were very concerning. He told me a couple months ago that he tried to fry some eggs and the stove's broken and the burner on the stove is messed up and it's dangerous. So he had pulled the stove out. He unplugged the stove. He said that the burner wouldn't shut off. He turned it off. It wouldn't shut off. The stove is fine. After he passed, I plugged it back in. I've checked everything on it. The stove is fine. But it was probably a good thing that we unplugged the stove, because I told him, I said, you do not use the stove anymore when I'm not here anyway. Um, but yeah, there were some times that were very concerning. There were, obviously, with where the tumor was growing. Hello, Willow. Take your moment in the spotlight, Willow. But there were times that were he was very, he hallucinated. Um, right before, it was after his surgery. It was right before the trips to the hospital and everything. He was laying in bed. Yes, that is Willow. She's very round. She's very round. She's a punch. But he was laying in bed and telling me, pointing at the ceiling, telling me, well, he told me blah blah blah, and he told me. And I said, honey, what are you talking about? There's nobody else here. Oh, that's bull. This guy's telling me this and this. And I'm like, honey, there is nobody here. And he got very angry with me when I was, it was frightening. It really was, because I was like, because he still had a lot of strength. Um, I will. Thank you. I'm like I said, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to be sitting out there by the fire with the listening devices on, and I'm carrying on, because he knows the truth now. If he'd share it with me, I would appreciate it. But yeah, it was I had some frightening times with him. Um, that really concerned me, because even the hospice nurse asked, she said, are there ever any times that you don't feel safe? And I was like, there have been a couple, but luckily hospice gives you drugs to avoid that. There were a couple times that I had to dose him just to knock him out, just so he would calm down and not be so agitated. That lasted a short time, though, probably only a couple of weeks. But after that, he was very, very resigned, very, thank you. Thank you, guys. But he was very resigned. He knew it was coming. And a few weeks ago, because every time I would tell him I love him, tears would start coming out of his eyes. And I looked at him that one day and I said, why do you cry every time I tell you that? And he looked at me, he said, because I'm scared. Yeah, I get that. I'm scared too. But at the end, the hospice nurse asked me, was he fidgeting? Was he, because a lot of times she said they're just all over the place and they're moving their arms, their legs, they're grabbing their head, and they're moaning, they're making, and I said, no, he never, the only thing he did was grab my hand. He never kicked or fussed. He never made any noises. And she said, well, I want to tell you that means he was not in any pain. He went peacefully and he was not in pain. And that's, at the end of this journey, that's all that I can ask for. Oh yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of people praying for him. But yeah, he went peacefully. He went in no pain. He wasn't scared. He went, and he went peacefully, and that's all that I could ask for, because this disease is hell. This disease is complete hell with what it does to people, not just the patients, but to take away his thought processes, to take away his ability to speak, to take away his voice. to take away his eyesight. It just took everything that it could take. And it took a lot out of me. And it took a lot out of me to lose him. But I know when I'm going to be sitting out there by the fire with the recording equipment out. Thank you guys. That's awesome. You know, when I'm going to be sitting out there with the fire listening and talking to you guys and making videos, I know that he's going to be there with me. I know he'll be there with me. And I'm always going to have these YouTube videos. They are. They are. Since when? Since Wednesday, power's been flickering in my house, and we do not have any wind. It is perfectly still outside, and the lights are dimming and coming back on and dimming and coming back on. It only happens like 2 or 3 times, and then it doesn't happen again. But he's here. He's here. You guys are awesome. Well, yeah, because we're talking about him now. You think he's going to miss out on that, seeing what everybody's saying about him? Come on now. He wants to know. But guys, I think I'm going to get going here. But I just wanted you all to know what happened. Why we are where we are today. I will, as I said, I will he's not going to haunt you, Carl, unless he wants to screw with you. He'll be hanging out here. But I will keep you guys posted. I'll try to get out and do some videos. I love you guys too. You've been there with us. Some of you have been with us for a very long time. And, you know, I owed it to you guys to tell you, because you've been with us on this glioblastoma journey for the whole time. Some of you, and it's been horrible. But I will, next time I'm going to post a video or do a live, I will put it on the page. I will put it in the, whatever the heck you call it, where you leave a message. And I will let you guys know. I love you guys. And thank you for loving Mike the way that you did, because it really meant a lot to him, and it really means a lot to me that you did. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.